Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to today's training. Today's tutorial, I mean. Um, so we are doing August's insert, which is the basket, jar, pail of pumpkins. You can get super detailed with this or just stay super simple. I kind of added some ombre to the leaves. And what I love about this one is a lot of these pieces can kind of be placed wherever. There are a few that have specific cutouts. Like this leaf doesn't necessarily need to go here. It does have a cutout for the stem, but really this could get placed anywhere. The pine cones can go anywhere. So you can kind of play around with location of these. There are a few pieces that will sit along the back where we glue them to the back, and they are labeled glue to the back on your piece. So let's get started. I'm going to get the timer out. I hope everyone is having a great start to their August. We have been busy. My husband is doing a gourmet soda stand at the fair this weekend, something different. And it's going really well, and he's finding he needs more supplies, so I've been busy trying to figure that out. But anyways, these are the colors I'm using for this. So if you got the paint kit with your insert, these are the colors that you got. Remember, you can use any colors that you want, any colors that speak to you, your favorite fall colors, etc. So I am going to remove this tape to get all of the pieces out. And they should just pop right out. We didn't do any tabs this month, mostly because I forgot to add the tabs in. So everything is taped together versus tabs. And I'm kind of thinking I like this method better, but you let me know if there's one way or the other. My fear is pieces breaking with the tabs, but then also the tape can possibly leave a sticky residue if left too long. So there's pros and cons to both. Oh, and you could reuse that tape. I could have reused that as my pieces to hold all of the little bits down, right? So there's that. But anyways, let me know if you have any thoughts on the matter one way or the other. So I'm going to put my pieces on, or these smaller pieces on some tape and kind of put them together how I want my colors to be. Kind of work like that. And that one will be there. And I don't think I'm going to tape my pumpkins down. I think I can hold them and paint them at the same time. So we have a base here. This is the slotted piece. This is the main piece. This pumpkin that's got the cutout of the leaves is going to sit right here on that one. This pumpkin with the, not cutout, but the outline of the leaves are going to sit there. And then these two that say glue to back will be on the back. And it doesn't matter how you glue them on the back, this way. You can flip it. They just kind of sit on the back however you want to display those. So let's get started. Get a new piece of paper out here. And when you're painting your pieces, depending on the color, you might want to just keep in mind how you're going to place them. So I like to try and break up my colors, so not all my oranges are maybe on one side, or all my greens or all my whites. It is okay if you paint all your pumpkins the same color though. But for me, I like to kind of break up the colors. Personal preference. So when I'm painting that, I kind of think about where I'm going to place them, try and lay them out as I would be putting them together. So I am going to take a makeup wedge, tap it into that paint, tap off my excess, and we're just going to come out and start painting our pieces. And I'm not going to be too concerned about my stem right now. I go just right up to it and kind of just over that line as well, because I'm going to come in with a detail brush and paint over that color anyways. So this first layer of color just for my pumpkins is just going to overlap that stem, and then I can come over that and clean it up. Now for this, you can use a detail brush. I like to just kind of hold my makeup wedge at a slight angle and just kind of cut in there. But again, use a detail brush if you want. The other thing, if you want to really see those score marks, you might want to clean those out if you get a little too much excess paint in there. So a nice pointy tool is perfect for that. And then let's see. I think I'm going to paint, let's see, that one goes there, 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 and I'll do this one orange. Mix it up just a little bit. Now the bottom of this pumpkin isn't going to be seen too much, so we don't have to get too carried away with how that looks. There we go, in terms of that line between the pumpkins there. The other thing that's going to be orange is the bottom of my leaves. So I'm going to take my makeup wedge and just tap that color on the bottom here of the two, I think they're maple leaves. I think that's what they look like to me anyways, these maple leaves. So I'm going to just hit the bottom of those there. Okay. Next color I'm going to use is the Navajo white, which is my creamy white. Just make sure my everything looks okay. One last look here. Okay. Another makeup wedge, tap it in, tap off the excess, and I only did one pumpkin white, so we'll just do this big center one here, white. Remember, you want to paint in light coats. Orange and white are colors that do require multiple coats. Don't try and go too heavy. You'll get a smoother coat. It dries faster if you do just multiple light coats. And it also helps keep those score marks clean, so we really see that detail that that laser has created for the pumpkins. Then we're going to do green. You could do a light blue pumpkin, pinks. There are so many colored pumpkins. I can't remember what they call. Oh, I do have two white pumpkins. Hold on. Let's see. This one. It was tucked back there and I didn't see it. But they have, I think they're called heirloom pumpkins. And they're the craziest colors. They're like almost pink, white, kind of this soft green color. It's been a while since I've seen them, but they were kind of popular a couple years back, and our local grocery store actually carried them. And I don't know if they went over too well, because I haven't seen them carry those type of pumpkins again. But They were sure interesting. I think they were called heirloom. Maybe not. They were some sort of crazy name though. I don't want to say vintage, but they definitely were different. And honestly, this is your piece of art, so you get to call the shots, you get to make the reality, so you can make your pumpkins any color you want. I always go back and forth between either a green pumpkin or a blue pumpkin. But I had just painted some blue pumpkins, more like a teal color, you know, like a dark teal color. And then a soft sky. So I was like, oh, I'm going to do green this time. All right, so we've got that done. Let me get the leaves that I want green. All right, we're going to pull out some yellow. We'll do the tops of these maple leaves, and I just overlap that orange just a little bit. This is just the first coat. This next coat that we put on will create a more smooth ombre. So right now we're just kind of putting a, you know, pretty harsh line dividing those two colors, but we'll start to create a gradient here in just a minute. Then I'm going to grab out my brown. And I'm going to start with a makeup wedge for my pine cones here and my berry twig. So I'm painting the entire twig brown. And then I will come in on the top of that brown and paint my berries a white. It's just easier to start with one coat of your main color over everything, and then instead of trying to do detail work twice, it's kind of how I look at it. So I can be super quick with this coat, and then the next coat would be more of a detail coat where I'm going to use a liner brush instead of having to do that liner brush work twice. Okay, so I do have a liner brush next. I am going to, I think I'm going to hold off on painting my stems. I'm going to take some sandpaper. I want to put a second coat on my pumpkins before I do my stems. We're going to go back to the first color. We'll put our second coat on. And again, this is just to eliminate having to be super detailed with one of the colors. I'm able to just kind of sloppily work around that stem with the second coat even, and then I can come in with my liner brush. And like I said, clean that up. It's all about eliminating steps for me anyways. You can do it any way you want. All right. Clean up those lines there. Do quick sanding on these pieces. Acrylic paint is so super nice in the fact that it dries so fast, and especially when you're doing light coats. I will just quickly move on to the next step. So I think we've settled on our next year's project. We did put a poll out in our email that last month's email. I put out a poll. Maybe I'll put it out one more time. And we've got quite a few different votes, but the majority settled on this pedestal kind of easel thing, which is super cute. They were all cute. I was fine with any of them. I loved them all. No partiality on my part. But this one is cute. So if you haven't voted yet, go check out your email. And if you didn't get it, let me know. But it was the email that was letting you know about the tutorial being available. So it was July's tutorial available now, I think is what the heading was. And yeah, we're pretty set on it, but we do have a little more time. We have a couple more weeks before I finalize it. So yeah, go check that out. Maybe I'll put it in this email one more time and get your opinion, but we did get quite a few votes in. Okay, so here I am using my detail brush. This is where I'm going to just take a little time to get those stems covered. We've got a second coat on everything. Everything's been sanded. It's nice and smooth. It looks great. There we go. All right. Let me get to the edge of this one here. Okay, so I'm going to put that. Don't want those over there, there. No, I'm going to go this way. Okay, so I've got my pumpkins the way I want them. The next thing that I want to do is just add some details. So I'm going to go back to my liner brush. We're going to clean it out. And I'm going to start with my orange pumpkin. So I like to dip my brush into the main color, so the original color. And then I will go and grab a second color on top of that. So I've got both brown or orange and yellow on my brush here. And I'm going to let my brush kind of just blend those and add some highlights. I think the yellow adds a really nice highlight to the tops of my pumpkins. You can kind of see that. So they're just brush strokes right along those top ridges of the pumpkin. Go grab some more. And you could definitely just, blend these two colors together on your palette to get the color you want. But I personally like just my brush to do the blending so that one has a little bit more yellow. And then as I'm brushing those strokes out, I start to lose some of that yellow. They get a little bit more orange. And I think that just adds to that so they're not all the same, right? They kind of blend out. And as I work around the pumpkin or from left to right, one side is going to be lighter than the other, and I think that just adds to how you would see it anyways, where the sun or the light is shining down on it one way or the other. That makes sense. So now I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to go grab the dark brown. So I've got orange. I'm going to dip it in the dark brown, and dark brown is super heavy. So I just want a tiny, tiny bit. If you get too much, just swipe on your palette and swipe some of that away. And I'm going to flip this around because I want my shadows to come from the bottom up. So I'm going to just start at the bottom and add some brush strokes to the bottom and just kind of swipe them up so it kind of gets smaller. So it's like a heavy and lift up to get that light swipe up. See how we added some shadow there? So again, we're going to get that orange on there. We're going to add a tiny, tiny bit of brown. And I'm going to swipe some of that brown from the bottom up, lifting as we swipe up to thin out our line. As we lift up, that line gets thinner, which is what we want because that shadow is going to get smaller as we work our way up the pumpkin. There we go. All right, so we're going to go to the next one, which I'll do my white next. We're going to get lots of white on it. Now, white really doesn't have a color that you would use for a highlight because it's white on white. Mostly you're just dealing with shadows on the white, so we're just going to go right into that. I'm going to flip it over so I'm working from the bottom up. I'm going to grab just the tiniest bit of brown. I think I got a little too much there. And we're going to swipe up. Get those really nice looking shadows there. Swiping up. All right, we're going to go to the green next. Do the same thing. Load it up with that green. Start. And with the green highlight, I'm going to use white. You could use a yellow if you wanted to. But I prefer the white for this process here. Now, if you're working and one color gets a little too dark, too light, too much, before it dries, you can grab a baby wipe and clean it up, get rid of some of the color there. Sometimes I get a little heavy with the brown and need to do a little cleanup. Let's see how this is going to look. We're just going to lay these out. I think that's going to be perfect. I ended up doing the exact same thing except my white and the orange are flip-flop there. That's all right. All right, so there is the pumpkins. We've got some nice highlights. We've got some shadows. Let's look at these smaller pieces here and add some detail to them. So for this, let's start with this. I'm going to use the yellow sponge, and I'm going to start with adding the orange to the bottom, and I'm just going to kind of tap the excess, swipe away the excess. So I have orange and yellow, and I'm just going to go right over that line. Need a little more orange. You can start to see that my yellow is pushing too much into my orange part. So that just means I need a little more orange on my makeup wedge here. There we go. And I just lightly tap over that to kind of bring those two colors together and create a nice ombre. Typically I'll just take it and go back and forth this way, but sometimes you want to go up and down that ombre to bring maybe the orange up into the yellow a little bit, or vice versa, to soften up that ombre so it's not such a hard line. And it only takes a couple swipes on something small like this. Now for the green leaves, I did add a little bit of yellow. So I am going to take my green makeup wedge and I'm going to add some yellow to the tip of it. And I'm going to swipe it in just to kind of get it blended on that. So that's what that looks like. And then I am going to kind of hold it so the yellow is more on the leaf than this back part. And especially here because I don't want to get this leaf with green. I could put some tape over that once it dried, but I think I can just tap in a little bit of yellow right here on the side and get just a little color into those leaves. And do this one. I really only want that yellow to be on one side. There we go. Okay, so I blended that in. Next I'm going to take this white. We'll see if I can get this to work with the white. And what I did was I kind of tried to offload most of the white from that. And I'm just going to lightly tap over one side of these I don't know. To me, they kind of remind me of something like maybe a lamb's ear, where they have kind of, it's not a frosted tip, but it's kind of that soft tip. It's a little harsh, so I'm just going to take some water on my brush and soften it up. I might have to add green to that makeup wedge. I was hoping not, but I'm going to. Let's just do that. We're going to get some green on here. We got half white, half green. There we go. And we're just going to go down. There we are. That's exactly what I needed to do in the first place. I don't know why I thought I couldn't do it that way. But there we are. That's kind of the look I was going for. Kind of a soft, again, like a lamb's ear look, where, you know, you look at it in one light because of the fuzziness that it looks kind of whitish. Okay. And then I'm going to take a liner brush and just quickly fill in the tips of the berries there with white. And there we go. That's it. So we're going to start gluing it up, and then we will, well, I'll do my detail work right now. I'm going to use my white pen here, and I'm going to add some white highlights to my stems. Then some highlights to the tops of my pumpkins. We'll add some highlights to my leaves. With the leaves, I like to do kind of a squiggly line. And then with the pine cones here, I like to just add a little dash to some of the individual pieces of that pine cone. All right, so I'm going to hold off, I'm going to hold off on adding the black detail line until I glue it together. So I'm going to start by gluing my pumpkins on. The front here. And when you're gluing your items on, just kind of keep an eye on how much glue you're using. A lot of times if you use too much glue, your piece will want to just kind of hover over that and slide around. So just when you think you've got it placed perfectly, it might have adjusted a little bit. So keep an eye on that. So that sits there, and then we do have one of the pine cones that sit inside this leaf here. So when you're gluing this pine cone, you really just need to hit the very tip of the stem and the top of the pine cone there. And that just slots in right there. To rotate my piece, make sure that that pumpkin didn't shift, and there we go. Then we have another pine cone that sits right here. How did I do that? I'll use this one. So there are a few pieces I did mention at the very beginning of the video that a lot of these pieces are interchangeable and they can kind of go wherever. There are a few that do require a certain placement due to the score marks there. And that's just to help you so you don't overlap maybe how it sits inside the basket. All right. I'm going to flip it around for these next pieces. And I like to get a scratch piece of wood. So I'm going to grab this and set it there. That way when I slide this under to glue, this isn't teetering on just the pumpkins. It kind of gives it some balance. So I think I'm going to have these kind of take it over here. I don't want them to be, what is right here? I don't want my stems to be too lined up like this. So I think I'm gonna push it this way. And I think right there. Okay. So as these are sitting here, I'm just going to add a line of glue to the bottom of those. And using that to hold my piece, I can come in and just glue that right on top there. And again, then it doesn't teeter and it's able to set up a little bit better. All right. So then the last few pieces that we have can go anywhere. The only place that we don't want them to go is like right here hanging down. Otherwise they'll get in the way of your basket. So the bottom of this area right here, you want to keep free. They need to be from the bottom up, if that makes sense. So let me use my makeup wedge to apply glue to these little pieces. So for example, I'm going to put this right there. And again, I just want to make sure that the bottom of this leaf doesn't extend past the bottom of that pumpkin. We can put this one here. And think we'll go up here with this one this time, kind of sitting up there. And maybe I'll have this one sit on top of there. And then the last one, maybe back up in this area. There we go. So I just love these colors. I think this is such a fun little insert. I'm going to grab my black marker and add just some of my favorite squiggles that I've been liking to do. I can't wait to see how you guys all decorate yours, what colors you use, whether it's the standard fall colors or something completely different. I think they all are absolutely beautiful. And remember, we want to have a nice tight fit when we put your insert in, but if it gets, if you get too much paint here, or just the difference in wood, you can sand the back of the tab here so that it slots in just a little bit better. So do a little sanding, test it out, and then do a little more if necessary. But that is this month's, I don't want to pick it up too soon. That is this month's tutorial, our basket of pumpkins for fall. And be on the lookout for that email. I will put a poll out one more time for next year's project. But I'm getting super excited to start something new. And I look forward to crafting with you guys next month. You guys all have a great August. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being part of the Mini Make It series. I can't believe we're wrapping up the year. We have 3. Let me see. I have my colors written down. We have 1, 2, 3 more months of this year's Mini Make It. We'll do something new. So anyways, guys, thanks for joining in. Happy crafting, and we will chat with you later. Bye.